All right. I think we're good and ready to start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second week of us exploring, learning how to make bad websites together. Welcome to the Bad Website Club. If this is your first time joining, hi, my name's Ramon. My friend Jess and I, we usually every week run this learning initiative together where we are joined by incredible folks who teach us how to make websites with different tools in order to get over that bump of perfectionism that sometimes I know I'm guilty of when I'm making websites. So it's really great to have all of you here. I'm going to take a few moments to just say hi to folks who are joining in. We got folks joining in from Syria. Hey, we got Emmy joining in. Hello, good to see you. From Pittsburgh, we've got hello. Hey, Paula. Hey, Archie. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Please, feel free to keep contributing. Feel free to bring your questions. Jess, send your regrets. Sadly, it'll be just me today, but so happy to have you all here and continue this cool learning experience we're doing together. Jane says, hello, I was on the coding boot camp. It's nice to be here as well. It's good to have you here, Jane. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping me with my minor mistakes with the website. If you were tuning in earlier and the links were switched around, that was my bad. But hey, bad websites, huh? Cool. Before I go on for too long and to respect our incredible guests who are here, just want to point out a couple things. If you want to look at our schedule, you can find all of the information on our website. Going to bring it up in just a moment. Jaime is here from Nicaragua. Good to see you. So badwebsite.club. You can find all the information there, including the schedule and, very important, the code of conduct. Of course, we all want to make sure that we are in this together. And, we want to behave accordingly. So without further ado, let me introduce to you what we'll be doing today, which is we're going to be learning how to make websites with WordPress. I'm super, super excited to bring on our guests, Tanya and Jerry. Hey, Tanya, bringing you in now. Hello.
Hello. How are you all doing?
It is so good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us, Tanya.
My pleasure.
Where are you tuning in from, if I may ask?
I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And it's still got lots of snow.
So I've heard, and we're also joined by Jerry. Hello, Jerry. How are you?
Hey there, friends. How you doing?
It is so good to have you here. And thank you so much for coming on and teaching us all about WordPress today. So here's how it's going to go, folks. If this is your first time tuning into the Bad Website Club, on Mondays we do demos. Folks will come in and show us how to use a tool. And tomorrow, Jess and I go, Tuesdays, pardon me, Jess and I go away and we make bad websites. Or hopefully, hopefully not so terrible ones, because we have a tendency to go off topic and have lots of fun. But it's incredible that y'all have these tools so that you can help us with. So I'm not going to blather on for too long. I'm going to let the two of you take it away. If you're watching, folks, please feel free to drop in any questions you might have for Tanya and Jerry. I will be bookmarking them. Jerry will be very kindly also helping us out in the YouTube chat itself with some of those. So keep those questions coming. And yeah, that's enough from me. Let me bring in your screen, Tanya. Good to go?
I think so. Hopefully when you share it, it's the right thing.
I see here the presentation.
Yay.
I will be hiding in the shadows. Thank you all so much. And see you on the other side.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it is fantastic to have you all here today to learn a little bit about WordPress.com. I'm not going to dig too deep into the differences. I've got a link at the end that I'm going to share with you, but in case if you've heard whispers and rumors, there are a couple of different divisions of WordPress as a software, and we tend to refer to them as self-hosted WordPress sites and WordPress.com. And it is kind of two different areas. The software is still the same. The core software is WordPress, right? We all use the same core software. It's just more about the hosting that ends up being a little bit different. I'm not going to dive really deep into that. I'll give you some resources to learn a bit more about that. We're coming to you from WordPress.com, which is a managed host, and I'm going to give you a little bit more information about that. So as already said, my name's Tanya. I'm a happiness engineer with WordPress.com. My colleague Jerry is also a happiness engineer, and we kind of do this all day. Jerry and I are also on the education side of WordPress.com. So we build courses and we do webinars and we do all kinds of stuff in that area. So we were really excited to do this with you guys. So let's just jump right in. I've got a few slides that I want to go through as a bit of a prep work, and then we're going to dive right into the actual software and like play and build things. So right out of the gates, you want to build a website. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Okay. And this is really important when it comes to building a website. One of the things I like to emphasize is pretty much your mindset and setting expectations. So you want to bring a willing mindset, no matter what platform or hosting or anything that you decide to go with. A willing mindset, a learn as you go mentality, and a willingness to explore through clicking on things. Click, click, click. It's the best way to learn how the different softwares will work, and they will all be different. They'll all do something different. Setting realistic expectations is also really important. This is technology. And if you have spent any amount of time on any kind of technology at all, you know, it changes when you least expect it to. And you go to do something and it's like, hey, this isn't how that worked. And all of a sudden it's different. So have some realistic expectations that, yeah, things are going to change. Sometimes things won't work out the way you expected them to, and kind of be willing to go with the flow a little bit with any of them. This is not just unique to WordPress. This is for any website builder, platform, any technology. Okay. So that's something I like to stress a little bit. And I actually think the name of this group being the Bad Website Club is really quite perfect. It's a great name because I'm a big believer in letting go of perfection. Don't worry about getting everything perfect when you're starting out with it or at any point. It's a digital creation. You're building a website online, and the beauty of that is you can change it whenever you want, as often as you want. It does not need to be perfect. Basically, a website is a journey, not a destination. It will never truly be done because there will always be something you want to change at some point in time. Okay. However, having some goals is a great place to start. So having a rough idea of why you're building a website, you know, what is it for? What are you going to do with it? Will really help to set the stage for what you need. Okay, so it's a good idea. It's not required. Okay, I encourage goals, but you also have the choice of deciding if you want to wing it or plan it. So if any of you here are writers, which I am, you may have heard of being a pantster or a plotter or a hybrid in between. And I like to think of websites in a similar way. If you're going to wing it, then that's kind of like being a pantster, and it's kind of like writing a story without an outline. There's nothing wrong with that. You can drop things into place and see where it goes, and then go back and change things if you don't like it. When you're planning it, it's kind of like sketching out things, making some notes, doing an outline, have an idea of what pages you're going to create and what content you're going to put onto those pages, which when it comes to building a website is an approach I prefer to take. And you're going to see as we progress here, how much faster that can actually make the website creation process when you take a little bit of time in advance before you even touch the software to get an idea of what you want. And then you're doing a lot of copy pasting, which can be really, really helpful and much faster. So basically, when you think about building a website, there are two aspects that are going to take time. The one that I feel takes the most time is figuring out what you want to include. That's the decision process. You know, what items are you going to choose? What are you going to say? That's very time consuming. The other side that can be time consuming is learning how to do the things. So how does a particular feature work, or what pieces do you need to put in place to get the end result you want? So those are the two kind of aspects that are going to take a little bit of time, again, with any platform. That's not just unique to WordPress. I recommend taking notes and saving files as you go. If you see a picture that you want to use, save it somewhere so you know where to get back to it. It is so easy to go down rabbit holes and lose the things that you saw that you thought would be awesome. Okay. Really, really briefly, I want to touch on some concepts about choosing a platform or host. Biggest thing is do your due diligence, ask questions. Not all platforms or hosting are created equal, and it is rarely a case of comparing apples to apples, okay? So you try and compare out two different platforms, Wix and WordPress. You're not comparing apples to apples. They do very, very different things, and they function very, very differently. So it gets really difficult to try and do those comparisons, even between hosts of WordPress sites. You've got host A and host B, both host WordPress sites, and yet their plans and their hosting packages are different, and they frame things differently. So it can be tricky. A couple things to be heads up about is beware the initial versus subsequent pricing. When you see platforms or hosting that are offering, 50 to 80% discount, look for the small print, because chances are that is only for the first billing cycle, and it's going to jack the price way up on the next billing cycle, whether you choose monthly or annual or 2 or 3 years, whatever the case may be. Find out what sort of inclusions and limitations. What are they providing for different types of support? How many sites are included? What kind of traffic limitations? Is the traffic per site or is it per account? Same with your storage. What sort of features? Do you get backups? Do you get security, updates? All those types of things. Look for the things that matter to you. And when it comes to the support, really look into the scope of support. Almost any website building platform is going to handle the technical problems. So if something is broken, they're going to help you fix it one way or another. But they might not explain how they're fixing it or why it broke in the first place. They might not be there to guide you with how-to questions. What pages do I need? How do I place certain elements on a page to create the look I want? So figure out what kind of support you need and then ask the questions. Reach out to them and say, hey, are you going to help me with these things, or do I have to figure that out on my own? For awareness, just so that you know. Okay, so not dwelling on that, really briefly, WordPress.com, managed host, all WordPress.com accounts are free. Some people use them for creating websites. Some use them to follow through our reader to follow other websites, and some do a combination of both. We offer unlimited free sites, so you can have as many websites under your account as you want. We also offer several hosting plans that start with free and then progressively work their way through based on your needs. You can upgrade to different levels at any point in time. You don't have to worry about making the decisions at the start of what am I going to need down the road. You can start with free and then stepping stone your way up as you build out. It will grow with you. Our paid plans are per site, so that is something to keep in mind, but everything is like we don't throttle traffic, we don't throttle bandwidth, everything you get for that site with the plan. We are a guide and teach type of support. We like to teach our users how to fish rather than just giving you the fish, but we also have programs and services available to just give you the fish as well. So you have the choice there. And we handle all the back end. So as I mentioned before, if something's just broken, you get a critical error, we can fix that for you. And a note on that, the vast majority of the time, if you do get that dreaded critical error, you rarely lose your content. It's usually some kind of conflict in the back end that just needs to be turned off kind of thing, and you're good. Okay, so try not to panic too much when errors happen. Okay. And before we dive in to actually dig our fingers into this, the last thing I want to sort of point out is that there is an inverse relationship between power and simplicity. And it was actually one of my students that shared this with me. It was like an epiphany. And I was like, this is amazing. I have to steal this. But it's true. The more power you want for your website, the bigger the learning curve will be. So if you want to do all these amazing things, you want a full e-commerce store and you want to have online courses and live chat and all these different bells and whistles built in, the learning curve is going to be much greater because you've got to learn how to use all those pieces. The less learning curve you want to deal with, then the more limitations you'll have to accept. And again, this is true across platforms. Some platforms won't grow with you. They will be limited by nature, and you're going to hit a wall at some point. You will get so far and then be like, oh, now I can't do what I want to do anymore. And you have to switch to a new platform. So that's something to keep in mind when you're picking and choosing where you want to sort of start out. I will say WordPress in general, whether it's self-hosted or through WordPress.com, is excellent for progressive growth. You can start simple. You can use the limited templates or themes and do what's provided. And then when you're ready and you want to learn more, you can start expanding out from that and growing out from that. So it's really quite nice to sort of give you the best of both worlds on that one. And just as an example, assuming everybody here is familiar with, or at least heard of Photoshop, very complex photo editing program, very, very powerful, but it has a learning curve. Canva.com is kind of a counterpart to that, which is quite simple. It's fairly user-friendly, but it's also limited in what it can do when you compare it to the power of Photoshop. So that's just an example to kind of put it into context. When you're thinking about website builders, you may very well find that parts of WordPress can get quite complicated because it is extremely powerful, but it is also possible to do things in a more simplified version, which is what we're going to do right now. All right. So I even have a slide that says demo, telling me, let's get into the demo. So the first thing I want to show you is just real quick, how do you create an account? Well, you go to WordPress.com, you click on Get Started, and you create an account. Fill in an email address, a username, password, click Create Your Account. And that's going to then drop you into the first page for setting up a site. So the first thing it will do is walk you through getting a site started. I'm going to log in, and hopefully if this works, there we go. So when you create an account, it's going to land you on this exact same page that my logging in just landed us on as well. So now with WordPress.com, we offer a 1-year free domain with any paid plan, but we also offer a free forever domain that you can use with a website, and you can use it publicly. Lots of people do. It will have WordPress.com in the name. So let's say, you type in whatever you want the domain to be. It's going to give you some paid options. This wants you to upgrade to, sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. She always does this when I'm live. It's going to offer some paid domains and upgrade. I mean, she does want to join in, you're right. So yeah, you can choose that. But as you'll see here, we have this option here. So it's thrown a number in there because I'm not the first one to try and pick a domain called My New Site. You can search up here. You could say maybe put your initials in, and then that might give you one without some random numbers added in. And you could do that and then select that. You can also choose your domain later. And what that'll do is if you don't type anything in here, this will just create a new site using your username, probably with some numbers included in it. Okay, so either way, you don't need to pick a custom domain and you don't need to pay for a plan to get started. So you can just select the free domain, and then you're going to see all the different plans, and you can see how they're progressive. Like they work their way up, they give all the details. We even have enterprise solutions for like Disney. Oh, fun fact. So yeah, lots of fun with stuff like that. And then you can go down to compare plans, and you can also look at the different features that you can share out here. So you can totally browse to your heart's content and learn all the different things. As you hover over things, you will see different tool tips and whatnot. Start with free will get you started for free. We've got some different sign-up flows that will walk you through just some options to get started. What are your goals? Do you have particular topics? You can actually skip this if you don't really know. It's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I just kind of want to play. You can just hit continue. Same with the category. Not really sure what kind of website you're building. That's okay. Click continue. And it's going to take you into our themes. So right out of the gates, you could browse through different types of themes. You can click on a theme to see some different options here, play around a little bit. But what I want to show you is a new feature we have that is really exciting. And it is still being iterated on, which means there's going to be changes coming. But I'm going to scroll all the way down. So these are a whole bunch of different themes that you could explore that have pre-laid out colors and patterns and stuff. But we have this fun one called Design Your Own. So I'm going to click on Start Designing and show you really how quickly you could go from a blank canvas to having a homepage fully laid out with some pretty professional patterns. And it's really just a case of a few clicks. So, and with these screens, I do recommend reading whatever prompts are on here. Okay, so this continue button, it says, ready? Go to the site editor to edit your content. Well, that's going to take you out of this flow. That's going to edit your content. And we're not ready for that. We want to put some patterns in place. So read the prompts that are on the screen to make sure that you know where you're at. When you think of a website, you're going to have a header. You're going to have some content in the middle. You're going to have a footer at the bottom. So let's work through that. And we're going to start with our header first. So what's going to be at the top? Well, here we can browse through and click on some different patterns until we find one that we like and we want to use. Okay, and there's a few different ones here. There's more choices you can change to later. I'm just going to pick this one. Okay, this is a nice simple pattern that's just going to put it across the top. This here, anytime you see an image placeholder like this, that's going to be an image for an image, whether it's a logo or whatever the case may be. So if you see stuff like this, it's just a placeholder. And let me, sorry, clicking on a few things. So I'm going to say I want that one. If you want, you can look at it on different screen sizes as well and see what kind of stuff is going to happen there. And click save, and we go back to the next section. So let's get our footer in place, and then we can decide what we'll put in between the two. So if we click on footer, we'll see we've got a few that we can choose from here. So again, you can scroll and you can click on various ones to test them out. I just want a kind of simple one here. So we'll just go with this one for now. And then we're ready now. We've got a header, we've got a footer, but it's not much of a website. We want some stuff in between those. So let's go into this homepage section where we can now add patterns. And all of these, the header, the footer, and all of these patterns is a thing that makes us very, very powerful because you don't need to be a designer. You don't need to figure out how to put all these pieces together and get the layout that you want. You can just select the pieces that you want. So let me drop some of these in here. What do I want? Well, again, you can scroll. There's a lot more patterns for the content side of things. So you can scroll through and have a look. I want to put an image in so that I've got an image right under my header. And then I want to put in, what do I want under my image? Oh, let's put in some text. So if we scroll down, have a boo here. Let's go with this one actually. Sure, that gives us a gray background and a place to put some text. And you'll notice I can't click on any of this stuff. So we're not editing the content here. We're just getting the visual of how's it going to lay out. Next, let's drop in this. Okay, now you'll notice as I've been adding things, unlike the header and footer, this isn't swapping out the pieces. This is putting stuff in place. And I'll show you how to change that afterwards. But let's just get a couple more. We'll put that in. Oh, and the other piece that I want to put in here is I'm going to have some blog posts. So I'm going to scroll way, way down the list and look for some blog posts, recent news. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to drop that in. But I don't actually want this at the bottom here. I want it in between these two. So if we go back a layer, it's going to show us all the pieces that we've just added. Now we can move these around. So this posts one that I just added, I want to move that up. So now we can see it's actually in between those two patterns that I added. And you could continue to do that. If you decided that you didn't want to have a particular piece in, you could go in and hit the X to delete it. You could edit it, and this feature is actually going to swap it out. So if I go down here, there, I could swap it out. Now I'm like, oh, you know what? I like that better because I don't have any other gray backgrounds. So let's go with that one. And that is the process of just kind of getting the general layout in place. Like, it's really just looking and clicking and moving things around. But now we want to edit this. We want to make it our own and customize it, right? So let's click save. And now it says, ready? Go to the site editor. Yes, that's what I want to do because I want to change some of the wording on this. So let's hit continue. I'm just having a glance at some of the chatter that's going on there. You guys got lots of comments. That's fantastic. What's the best? Yeah, and I see other people are doing some answers. So thank you, Ramon. And my colleague Jerry is also answering some questions, which is fantastic. I'm going to leave you guys to that, and I'm going to go back now that we've got our editor open with all our stuff in here. So the first place it's going to bring you is into our site editor, okay? And the site editor is a new feature of WordPress, and in here, it allows you to control every aspect of your website from the top to the bottom. In past years, if you're familiar with older WordPress versions, there were some limitations. You know, you would pick a theme and whatever the header was, that's what it was, unless you knew how to do coding. With the site editor, you don't have to do any coding. You can completely control top to bottom, left to right, all aspects of your site just using blocks. So that is one of the really beautiful things. It's a bit of a learning curve, especially for people who are more familiar with the old version of WordPress, because we have a couple different areas now that we didn't have before. So that can throw people a little bit. But for now, let's take a look at the site editor, and then I'll show you the main dashboard and how you get back and forth between pieces. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to edit this home page. So we can see all those patterns that I picked are here ready for us to work with. So I'm going to edit these, and we're just going to start throwing some content in place. And this is a replacement situation. We've got everything here. We are literally just going to replace. You could go in and you can look for other patterns. You can look for specific blocks. You can access your media library. So you can add new stuff as much as you want. But being that we already built this in the pattern assembler flow, we already have so much of the pieces that we need. So this list view, super, super handy. I've got my screen zoomed right now. So I should maybe just pause for a quick second here and see. Can everybody see my screen okay? Is it at a good enough zoom level? It's going to make things seem really scrunchy because it's zoomed in more. But if you guys are good with this, we'll go with that. And I'll just open and close sidebars to make it a little bit more visual. Let me know if you have a problem. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, perfect. Give a shout if anything isn't working, and feel free to interrupt too. Like I think people can ping me and tell me to stop talking. All right, so what we've got here is we've got the list view shows us the pieces that are in our editor. So if we were to click, it's going to expand all these out. Now you can also click on these little arrows and, piece by piece expand it out. But it's kind of super handy. And I'm going to close this because it's going to my mobile thing. It's kind of super handy that you can click into particular pieces and it will expand that out. Okay. So we want to.
I'm really sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Very much appreciated. Just got a message from Matthew. If you could please just zoom in just a tiny bit. Hello,
Oh,
everyone. Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt.
No, no worries. Okay, so do you mean make
I
it
would say,
bigger or smaller?
yeah, if you could bump the font size a little bit larger, please.
I can go
And
one plus one more. I will
I
say,
think
no,
that's good.
I see that Matthew commented that he's on his phone and it's a bit hard to see. It probably is going to be much harder to see on the phone. This is definitely better viewed from a desktop than a phone. So
I might try something else. I'm going to be strategic about this. One thing we can do, let me see if this works. Bring it down here so it's a little bit larger. We might miss, I don't know, you can't see what I'm doing, Tanya, probably.
I can.
But
I have it open on another window.
very good. So I think that gives us a little bit more screen real estate. I'll try and be strategic about because I can hide us for just a touch if needed and bring us back in.
You can keep
So I
me
might try
there.
that a little bit.
I mean, it's not about me. It's about what's on my screen. So you can hide the videos if that's, yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'll be strategic about it. I'm going to stop interrupting. Carry on. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. And please do jump in and interrupt me like that because it's easier than me trying to keep track of all of the chatting that's going on. All right. So here, what we're doing is we're going to swap out the site logo. So if you have something already saved on your computer, then you would go into your computer and you would just upload it, find the file that it's in, and go ahead and add it. Otherwise, you might have to, find it and dig around. I prepared for that piece. So I got this cute little Wapoo logo that I'm popping in there. And whenever you add blocks and you're working with blocks, you want to pay attention to the toolbar at the top. So let me close the list view for a moment. When you have something selected, you've got a toolbar across the top. You also have the settings icon, which is going to give you a sidebar with additional tools and options. Make sure that you're investigating all of those, right? You really want to click around to see what kind of options any particular block has available, and it will change per block. The other thing is I've got it set so that this toolbar is pinned at the top. That's a setting in this ellipse menu here, top toolbar. You can remove that and it'll be a floating toolbar menu then. Some people prefer that. They like it to kind of follow them around. I find that sometimes it can kind of get in the way of what I'm doing. So I do kind of like to just pin that at the top. I also often forget that I have pinned it at the top. So that happens. But yeah, you can kind of play around and find what works best for you from how you have it set up. But highly, highly encourage you to explore. So I said that right at the very beginning. Don't be afraid to click on things, and see what things do. Like, what is the fixed background? Oh, that's a parallax effect, right? Don't want that, so turn it off. And right, just play around with things and see what they do. It's one of the best ways to learn. In WordPress.com, we also have this question mark here for the Help Center, and you can search our knowledge base, our articles for information about all of our different blocks and, what are blocks, right? And you can read that article right here, and it's going to give you some of our YouTube videos or, whatever information we've got, you can access it right here. You can minimize it, and it's going to put it down here. You can close it. Okay, lots of flexibility with that. You can also open in a new tab. So if you did that, this little icon up here is going to open it in a new tab. And now you have that full article in a separate tab that you can go back to. So lots of different ways to get help. Anyways, let's get back to editing this. So what do I want to do here? I want to change out this image, but I don't have an image. So I want to go to select media. And here we've got a couple of options where you can get free photos. It's just built right into the system. So I'm going to go with the pixels. And for this one, I'm going to search for just website. And you can just kind of scroll through and look for whatever image you like. And you just find one and select it, and it's going to insert it in and swap out whatever photo you had there. If you have pieces that have come in with a pattern that you don't want to include, let's close the sidebar here and open this one. you can select them and you can just remove pieces and be like, okay, I don't want this particular paragraph. I'm not going to link that to anything. So I'm just going to take that out. And maybe I want the background to be a little bit darker so that I can read that text a little bit better. So this is an overlay and I've got a darker overlay on it, and you can change how dark that is just by changing the opacity percentage. So now we can see that text really good, but we can still see the picture behind it. Cool. I'm good with that. And we can now carry on. Now the next piece here, that's got a lot of white space around it. So if we select this, and again, list view, this is why I like to be able to keep my screen big so I can have everything open all the time. But when we look in here, we can see that we've got the cover block selected here, and that is the whole. Sorry, I got distracted reading comments. You can see the whole cover block is selected here. And again, because my screen squishes, it changes the layout of it because it's responsive. So if we close that, we have this selected, and I say, I don't want this much white space. So how do I get rid of that? Well, the nice thing is when you see a dot like this, you can actually just drag it. So now we've got a little bit less space there. And I am not Linda, so let's go ahead and put a quote in here. Let's just copy this. Now, remember I said about the planning and the outline before? This Google Doc is a planning document. So now because I've already thought about what information I want to put and where I want to put it, I can just copy and paste. So this is something that can make building a website, regardless of what builder you're using, much, much easier and faster. So I'm going to paste that in there. It is a quote, so I'm going to put some quotes around it like this. And let's make it italics. Perfect. And let's make that a little bit smaller, okay? And when you save and preview the site and whatnot, you'll be able to come back and tweak things a little bit more as desired. For now, I'm just going to plow through and show you. So much of it is really just about copy pasting. Like, it's a little bit repetitive in some cases, but I know on my home page, I want this first section to be a bit of an about section, and engineering happiness is our jam. And it totally is. So we're going to do that. We're going to, whoops, I missed the T. Copy that. And this is the paragraph that I want to have here. I don't have any other pages built yet, so I can't link this button. So we'll come back to that. But we can replace out the picture. So again, I don't have photos. I'm not a photographer. So I can search in here and be like, okay, what kind of image do I want to put with this? You can tell I've looked for these before because I found these little guys and I thought they were really cute. So we're going to drop that in there. Perfect. Engineering happiness is our jam, and they look pretty darn happy to me. Recent news. Now, these are some blog posts, and I'm going to look at this and go, okay, is that the way I want it laid out? I don't like 4. I'm for some reason, I'm not a fan of 4. So let's click here to expand all this out, and we're going to see that selected the feature image. So you look at these layers. This is the kind of thing, why I love the list view, is you can really see where you're at. So click on the query loop block and then start looking at your settings. So we've got an option here for display settings. And when you hover over these, it's going to tell you what it is. So this is the align setting. This is the display settings. So what does that give us? Items per page. I only want to show 3. Okay, so that takes me to 3. But I don't want a blank column. So what am I looking for now? So this is where you would go and say, okay, let's look at the settings. Do we have anything in here? And here we can scroll down and see what kind of options we have available. And we see we've got a columns option. So we can change that. And that's going to allow us to have 3 all a little bit bigger. Okay, so you just kind of tweak and adjust to get things the way you want them. Something else that I know I want to do with this one, again, because of planning, is I want to make these images. Now, right now, they're all the same size because they're all the same image. But if I pull in separate images, if I look at the settings here, we're going to see aspect ratio is original. So if I went in and found a square image and a vertical image and a horizontal, they're all going to display differently because it's original. So you would go in here and say, I want this to be square, and I'm going to say 300 by 300 pixels. So that's going to set all of my images in this query loop block now to all be square at that ratio. Okay. And the thing with this particular block I just want to mention is that you'll notice I have 3 posts that are displaying, but there is only one post template. So you're creating a template based on one particular post, and that template is then going to apply to each of the other posts that are shared in this block. Okay. And posts are your articles. That's your dynamic content that updates, when you publish new travel journals or new recipes or press releases, whatever the case may be. So that was my feature to image setting. And because these are automatically pulling in from my posts, I can't edit what images here, but we'll do that from our actual posts. So that one is good. The other thing I want to do is I actually want to make the post title centered. So I can do that. Okay, so now I've got my images, I've got my titles, perfect. The last piece here is this sort of contact section that I wanted to put in on the home page so that people know, hey, there is support available when you need it. And then we can have this in here. And then again, so you can see there's a lot of repetition, right? It's a lot of rinse and repeat, not content. The word contact is what I was looking for there. A lot of rinse and repeat in the process of how to build your website and get your content in. So I'm going to replace this here with this picture. And the other thing you can do with stuff like this is say your columns, it's hard to see on my screen like this, but you've got different alignment settings. So you can make sure that it's middle aligned. And when it's, I'm going to zoom out for a second. That'll make it more balanced top and right. So it's like a vertical alignment there. I think I was in 4 actually. There we go. Okay. So last piece I want to show you here is I really like this footer, but I don't know if you remembered when I was picking the footer, there was one that had color icons. And I'm sitting here going, well, I don't know how to make these icons color. And when I, click on my settings, it's not really giving me the options, or I have to try and figure out what colors and all this kind of stuff. That's a lot of work. I don't want to do all that work. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to insert after, and I'm going to search for that footer that was in the pattern assembly setup at the beginning. And I'm going to look for that. And this is a really great way of how you can work with different patterns and kind of make them work together. So I'm going to select this because I want these color icons. And that's going to drop it at the bottom here. Okay. And in here, we're going to see, so let's select this. So that gives me my social icons that are colors. And up here, we have the social icons that are not colored. So I'm going to drag this one, and you can drag in the list view. So drag and drop, click, drag it up, drop it above there. So now I've got it above these other ones. Now I can get rid of the ones that are not colored, and I can get rid of this entire extra footer that I pulled in simply so I could steal a piece out of it. So that is just a really fun way to kind of find other patterns, find pieces from them. You don't have to use a pattern as it's provided. You can adjust it, and you can steal pieces from other ones as well. When it comes to these here, you'll notice this first one and the LinkedIn one are both kind of grayed out, and the other ones have colors. That's because of links. So if I click on this, we're going to see there's no address on this one, whereas there is a website address on this one. Okay. So you can have additional links sort of as placeholders that you want to add later. So long as there's no link, they're not going to show up on the live site. If you know you don't want to include a particular icon, you can just remove that icon. Okay. Again, check your settings, check for alignment things. I want that to be centered, which will be more obvious with those sidebars closed. Okay, so we can have things centered. And you can add, there are so many different social icons. And like anytime you see a plus sign, if you click that, you can add additional ones. So if we wanted to get our Twitch account in there, you could drop that in there and then add the link to the Twitch one. And with different things like this, when you see the arrows, you can move things around. So you can use these arrows to change the order. And you can do that with blocks. You can do that with icons within a particular block. So lots of control over the granular control over how things are placed. And other than our menu links and these pictures here, I mean, it's been maybe 15 minutes or so, and we have built an entire home page. So when you click Save in the site editor, it's going to list a whole pile of things here that it's saving. And I'm just going to zoom out. You don't need to read these, but just so you can see that there's all these pieces here, that it's letting you know it's changing and saving things in a variety of different areas. And then we can click Save. We still want to keep editing. We're going to hit View, and we can view the site. We'll need to go back in and edit our links for our menus so that, once we have those pages built, but we can see here we've got our page. We've got all of our content in there. We want to update my alignment's off there. So I'd want to go in and fix this. I centered this, but I probably didn't center my images, and that's why. Fixed, we got all of our stuff there and our colorful logos, and only the icons that we actually added links to. So Twitch and LinkedIn are not showing up in here, and there's no weird spaces. They're just not there. So that is the process of building a home page. We're already at 7 minutes to the hour. I had kind of thought to show you how to build out the entire website, but I think what I'll do here now is I'm just going to give you a bit of a tour, if you will, and show you where you would do the next steps. Okay. So let me actually I'm going to go to the main dashboard. So this logo will often take you back to the main dashboard. When you have not yet launched your site and you've come in via this flow that I've done, it's going to pop this up quite a bit. We're working on that and iterating on this. Also, that assembler flow, we've got some new changes coming to it as well, as far as how you interact and edit things on the screen and being able to choose fonts and colors. So lots of new stuff coming with that. But I'm going to skip to dashboard so that you can see the main dashboard. Okay, so we've been in the sign up flow. We've been in the site editor where we edited the home page. This that I'm looking at right now is our actual dashboard. And so this is where we see things like it takes me to the launch pad for that one, but you have the My Home links, your stats. Here's where you access posts. So if we want to go in and edit all of these pictures that are assigned to these posts, we would do that in here, and we would change the featured images. Again, exact same process. You would click on this image, go into if I could spell, look at that, I already searched it. You would go into this and pick an image, select it, and that's going to swap out the featured image on this particular post, and you would update it. Whether you're in the site editor, a post, or a page, so much of it is the same. You're dealing with the list view where you've got all your pieces. You're dealing with blocks. You have a toolbar. You have settings. There's a lot of similarity from one to the next. Labels will let you know where you are. Up here, it tells you you're in the post editor. When we were in the site editor, it said template up here. If you're in a page, it's going to say page up here. So really taking in your screen and what the different labels and tools are is what will really help with all of that, okay, and understanding where you're at. This is going to take me to Launchpad once more until we launch the site. And you know what? I got to say, I have a home page here that is looking pretty decent. I'm happy with this. I am going to go ahead and launch this site. And I'm just going to click launch your site. And just like that, the site is going to technically be available publicly. Congrats, your site is live. And it is as that simple to launch the site. There are a few different ways that you could launch a site. Under settings, before you've launched, instead of privacy, there would be a button here that says launch your site. And I would encourage you, don't be afraid to launch early. It will take search engines at least 4 to 6 weeks to index a new site. So you're looking at a good month to 2 months before a search engine is even going to acknowledge that your site exists. So give yourself some time on that. Indexing, that means so when Google, they have robots and spiders and whatever have you that crawl through the internet to look for new websites and new content. So that's indexing. It's kind of like it's a big index. I don't know another word for that, to be honest with you. It's like a bucket of websites. But that's how Google serves us search results. So when we go to Google and we do a search for, whatever keywords we're typing in, it's pulling from an index of all of those websites that have been crawled and found. And you want your site to be found in those search engines, and they're not going to be found for a good, lots of creepy crawlies. That's a really good way to put that. But yeah, it takes 4 to 6 weeks. So don't be afraid of launching early. Again, it's not about perfection. You can go back and change anything after you've launched. It's not like printing a book where you've launched a print book and now it's in print and it is forever. That typo will always be there. A website you can go back in and change anytime. So don't be afraid to launch it early, get it out there, and give it time to be found. Okay, so definitely don't be afraid of that. And if for any reason, especially in WordPress.com, if you don't want it to be live, you can come back into settings general and change it to coming soon or private if you really want to hide it. Okay, but know that search engines aren't going to be looking for it if you do that. So give it time to be found. But certainly, please don't be afraid to launch early. Okay, I have to tell you a quick story now because of that. I used to run a digital media website. We had a print newspaper in my local community that we printed bi-weekly, and we decided to go digital with it. And we made the decision to go digital on a particular day at a particular time. And we stayed up literally all night. Like we pulled like a 36-hour stretch to finish this website and get it perfect and ready to launch before we went live with it. All night, I was exhausted. We hit the publish button. We went live with it. And I went, why did I stay up all night to do that? Because I didn't have a lineup of people outside the door waiting to get in. Okay, so think about that from that angle. You hit launch, nobody's going to see it. All right, so don't be afraid to get it live and get it out there so that search engines can start looking for it. You don't have a lineup at the door. It's not like the ribbon cutting of a brand new building or something like that. Okay, it's a little different. So yeah, that kind of, just to give a quick overview here again from the dashboard, we talked a bit about posts. You get to your pages. So when you want to build your about page or your contact page, you would go into your list of pages to do that. Click the add new button. Again, work with patterns. We have page layout patterns, or you can pick individual patterns, just like we did at the beginning, where you put stuff in and then you just edit it out. You can also start from scratch if that's what you want to do. Okay, you have the choice, but working with the patterns in the first place can really help to streamline and move things a little quicker. When you want to get back to the site editor where we were working on the home page, 2 ways. So from the list of pages, it's going to say right here, your home page uses the home template. If you click on this, that's going to take you, let me do it in a new tab. That takes you to the site editor to edit your homepage template. Tells you it's the home, shows you all your homepage content. You can get to it right from there. Also under Appearance Editor, that is the site editor. Less words, I guess. Instead of site editor, it's just editor. So you can just click on that to get to the exact same place as this to edit your templates. I have hit the hour, and I think I'm supposed to stop before the hour to give some more Q&A time, but I'm okay for time if anybody else is able to stick around a little bit longer. But if you have any questions that haven't been answered, please feel free to drop them into the comments. One thing I do want to give you is some additional resources. So I'm going to paste this. Where can I paste this, Ramon?
If you send this into the private chat, then I'll be able to put it into the all chats.
Perfect.
And also put this into the YouTube description. So people of the future, if you are watching later, you'll be able to get all of these. Okay, I'm going to see what happens if I paste this all in one go. It might break. Let's see. If not, we'll put this in the description anyway. Folks, I just want to say, please join me in showering the chat with love, claps, sparkles, your favorite emoji of your hearts, your favorite emoji of shares. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Tanya. Jerry, I'm going to bring you in if I may as well, just to shower you with thank yous as well. You've all been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. You've pretty much all of the questions that have been asked in the chat have been answered. I want to take a little opportunity, if I may, to do two things. First of all, to highlight all of these if you're watching later, if you're watching on a different platform, just so that you can see what the questions were and what their answers were. But also, if you have any questions now is the time. First, I'm going to show some of the thank you. So we got thank you so much from CZMT. Thank you, Tanya. Some emojis. Look at this. I love it. I love this so much. It just makes me so happy. Thank you all so much for your appreciation. This is what makes it's so good to know that this is helping folks and that they're, keen on trying out these different platforms. So cool. Let me see if this looks at all usable. Hold up. Here we go.
Yeah, it didn't do the line breaks when
no,
so
that's my bad. No, actually in the private chat, it looked okay. Oh no, it didn't, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't. Yeah. When I copied it from my.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't like a comment that big, obviously. It just
We'll tell you what, I'll paste these in one by one so that we can get at them. In the meantime, I just want to take the time to highlight a couple of these. Matthew asked, is it easier to use a Mac or a PC when making a WordPress site? So Jerry very kindly answered, it will work on either platform just fine. All of the building happens in the browser, which is the same for both operating systems. And I just noticed that highlighting questions covers Jerry. So I'm just going to do this real quick because
it's quite all right.
No. I have my face on too much. This is totally fine.
I would only add to this to say that there are apps available. So you can get an app for your desktop computer or an app for your PC or for your iOS device, Android. There are apps available that are native, but plenty of people also just work right in the browser. You can just launch the browser, go to your website, log into the back end of your website, the admin area, and that'll work on any device. I have a web browser on my refrigerator in my kitchen, and it probably would work there too, honestly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Just getting a few links into the chat. So this will be, I hope I don't get banned by YouTube. I highly doubt it.
It's sure your channel and you're posting your own links. I think it's okay.
I hope so. Awesome. Thank you. We've got a question from Tanya asking, is it possible to edit HTML code manually?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's so we've still got my screen shared here. If I go,
yeah.
If we just go into, let's do a new page here. We've got HTML blocks that you can add. So we have a custom one. So you could, there There we go. So custom HTML. So you can actually write custom HTML like that in a block. You can also view the code editor for an entire page.
Wow.
Obviously, there's no content on this empty page I just pulled in. But like if we were to throw a pattern in here, let's pop this one in and then view the code. You can see all of the HTML code and whatnot for that. So absolutely, if you are familiar with HTML code, the short answer is yes.
Fantastic. Folks, if you're not familiar with HTML yet, don't worry. We're still learning to make websites without code or with minimal code. And the Bad Website Club will learn to make websites with code as well. So we'll get there too.
Wow, I'm impressed. You don't need to. There is so much that can be done with websites these days without needing to know code.
Totally.
So don't.
And I would say that the point of having the block editor, prior to having a block editor, you really did kind of need to know a little bit of code.
Absolutely.
Especially to create a complicated layout, whereas now it's basically just like Legos, but for page layout. So the need to do that is far less.
Awesome. Ahmad is asking, what are the minimum server requirements to run a simple WordPress site? So this is a pretty heavy question because we're talking about servers, which, correct me if I'm wrong, are computers or computer programs that respond to a browser saying, hey, I'd like to visit this website. And the server says, I got you. Here's your website. Here's your code, your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript. So I think Tanya is pulling up what the PHP environment is.
Yeah.
This is one of those simple questions that has very complicated answers too. I'll let Tanya start on this one.
Gary's probably more into the technical side than I am, and that's kind of why I wanted to jump in, because for most people, this information really isn't going to matter. And especially if you are working with WordPress.com. We are a managed host. We take care of the server requirements for you. And that's why I wanted to pull up this PHP environment document, because this will tell you all of the information about our server and the environment and all this technical stuff. Right. That for those who are more technically inclined, you will get the information you need from here, as well as some FAQs and whatever have you there. You are also welcome to reach out to us, whether it's through our forums or, emails or live chat, depending on what accounts you have with us, to learn more about what can or cannot be done. If you are more technically inclined, there are some limitations. Some people will come in and say, well, will you increase the memory limit? No, we won't. Okay, so whatever you see in here, this is what it is. And with WordPress in particular, there are extensions or plugins from third-party developers. And if they're not built particularly well, they may require more than what is provided here. But they really shouldn't. They don't need it, right? So they don't need more than what we're offering. This is based on optimized coding. Okay, so Jerry, do you want to add anything to that? I see another question about the PHP, but
I was actually doing a little researching, so I was half paying attention to you, Tanya. I'm really sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Really lead in on what you were going to have me pick up there.
Just whether there's any other technical considerations around this. Basically, I say if a plugin or a theme is built well, then these parameters are more than sufficient. And if a plugin is requiring something more than what we offer, it might not be the best coded tool.
I would say that as well. And it's kind of a bit of a misnomer about, what sort of things you need in order to run a website. Your host should take care of that for you. And so it often comes down to who is the host you picked. And this is one of those areas where you kind of get what you pay for, unfortunately. Like there is cheap hosting out there, but they tend to not have all the requirements that WordPress might need to run. Probably mid-level is then a little bit more expensive hosting that has more of the stuff you need, but it's still very DIY. You still have to kind of get in there and maybe configure some things yourself to make WordPress run well. And then there's managed hosting, which is basically hosting that is just specific to WordPress is tailored to the needs of WordPress. WordPress.com is an example of that. There's other companies like Pressable or WP Engine. There's a lot of companies out there that specialize in just hosting WordPress sites. And really what I would say is if you pick the right host, you won't need to worry about any of this stuff. But our server environment is a pretty good guideline of what would be about the max you would need for any kind of website, unless you're running at an enterprise level or something like that, where you might actually need something much more involved on the hosting side.
So two quick things to just add on that is I saw a quick question about the fact that it still says 7.4. To be honest, I can't give a hardcore answer as to why we still allow it, but my understanding is that it's just kind of like we offer a certain level of backwards compatibility, and there are still people that are using 7.4 stuff. So we're not just going to cut you off and say, haha, that does not work anymore.
It's not necessarily responsible for a host to be on the bleeding edge of like whatever the latest version of something is when it comes to PHP. My understanding is that, and I want to double check this once I get a second here, but I believe that you can select the PHP version for your account.
You can,
if you're on our business plan or higher, which our business plan would be more of like the fully unlocked version of WordPress kind of situation. And so on that level, you could actually choose your own PHP version if you absolutely needed to. But we try to set things up so there's as much backwards compatibility as possible, and someone won't have an issue if they upload a plugin to their site and then suddenly the plugin's not working. It's because it needed PHP 7.4, and we wouldn't want to be up to PHP 8 for everybody on our service. But you can choose it if you want.
Yeah, and you can see like when you're on the business plan with WordPress.com in the hosting configurations, you can access that, and we show what's recommended and what's experimental. So this is not yet fully released and fully tested kind of thing. So yeah, you have
PHP versions is like it's a debate we could go into for hours. I mean,
exactly right.
Well, I kind of have a sorry to sneak in with my question here, but just for folks that might be wondering and maybe thinking like, wait a minute, PHP, what am I doing? So I want to ask, like, if I've never worked with PHP, or if I'm a little bit not very familiar with that concept, do I need to worry about that when I'm making websites with WordPress?
No.
Not at all. No.
I don't know.
We're getting into the nitty gritty here.
This is exactly. And I personally know very little about this. Like what I've explained is the extent of my knowledge when it comes to PHP versions and stuff. I know enough to say, this is an older one. This is the recommended. This one is coming soon. I don't know enough about it, and you don't need to.
The simple answer is millions of people sign up for an account on WordPress.com and create a really awesome site, and they have no concept of any of this. And you don't need to have a concept of any of this.
No.
Good to know. Thank you. And I've also seen a bit of a discussion both in the chat and here as well, the use of the word plugin. I just want to make sure that folks are familiar. There's a question here from this rather handsome fellow here. For full context, that's me.
Talking about the dog.
What
is a plugin?
So plugins are a way to extend the functionality of your site. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure if we have a decent. So here, I'll give you this link, which will give some information. So here we do our little leapfrog thing. I put it in one place. Now Ramon will put it where everybody else can see it.
I cannot take credit for this resource.
But basically, it's a way to extend the functionality. So when you're building your site, there are tools and features that are built into the core software and sometimes into the theme. And if there are other things that you want to be able to do, then plugins will often be the way to do that. So when you're on our business plan or higher, you'll have the ability to install all kinds of plugins. And we can have a look here. These are the plugins I have on this one. And just shout out, block visibility as a plugin is amazing. So when you do want to play with plugins, play with that one. I don't have time to dig into the full details of it, but it basically, the short answer is that one controls whether or not blocks are visible on certain screen sizes. So if you have something where it looks good on desktop and not quite right on mobile, you can set it up so that these pieces display on desktop and these pieces display on mobile, and you have control over that. So it's a really cool plugin. But that's an example of extending functionality. You know, that feature is not built into the core software. So adding a plugin to have that control of hiding something on desktop versus mobile requires a plugin to be able to do that. So that's actually a really good example of.
I like to use an analogy here, which I think also kind of lands with a lot of people really well. Is that a plugin on a WordPress site is a lot like an app on your Android phone or on your smartphone. Your
I
iPhone.
like that.
Out of the box, your phone does all kinds of really amazing stuff. You don't need an app necessarily to be able to send mail or to view websites or things like that. Your phone has it pre-installed already. And WordPress is very much like that. So on WordPress.com, like a free site, for example, you can't add plugins. You do need an upgrade for that. But many, many millions of people create awesome websites on our free platform every day, including ones that show up great in SEO for Google and things like that. So
absolutely,
the free platform is very well-rounded. But you know how like on your phone, you just need that one app, like maybe it's Facebook or something like that, or maybe it's a measuring app, or who knows, there's just millions of them, right? And WordPress is like that. And it's an open platform like Android. So we do develop plugins, WordPress.com does, but other people who are not even related to us at all, they create plugins for the platform, and you can upload them and install them on your site and add e-commerce functionality, which you might not have, or the ability to sell memberships if you want people to like pay to read your blog articles, things like that. Plugins are great for this. And they are what allow you to build basically any kind of website you can think of.
Awesome. Thank you.
Matthew commented about Elementor. Elementor is a page builder. So it replaces out the WordPress default editor. So if you install Elementor, you're not using any of the blocks that I just showed you how to use. It's a personal preference. Elementor has been around for a long time, but it was how to be correct with this. It filled a gap when a gap was needed to be filled. Our new block editor and the site editor and the direction that the core WordPress software is going, it's a personal preference. Some people love Elementor, some do not. It's got a big learning curve. So for some people who come in and say, oh, WordPress is really complicated and it's got a big learning curve, I want to use Elementor. It has a much bigger learning curve. Just want to caveat that. So, you know, keep that in mind. Nothing wrong with exploring and trying things out and seeing what is best for you. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters, is what makes the most sense for you, because everybody is different. And, you know, I like fantasy novels. Somebody else likes horror novels. It's okay that we don't like the same thing. Websites and the building process and the tools is the same. You don't all have to like the same tools. Okay. So that's just an opinion. I would not say that Elementor is any better or worse, or, you know, I don't think, and I saw a question earlier about what's better, WordPress or Wix. Potato, you know,
Toyota or Honda, you know.
Exactly. There is no better or worse. What works for you? What resonates for you?
What you know, also I think, you know, what's the right tool for the job. And when I say the job, I don't mean like the meta job, you know, the job that could be, I need a website, but rather I need a website within these circumstances.
Yes.
I think that's really important to be aware of, like, what it is that you need at that time. For example, myself, if I needed to get out some kind of web app real quickly, I would use one kind of programming language stack. It differs. So I think that's really, really well put. Thank you.
I'll add on to that just quickly to say that the advantage I see of the core WordPress editor is it's already installed. There's no need to add a plugin. It's part of the functionality of WordPress. And if you help a friend with their site or someone else with their site, you already know how to use it. Elementor is really good in that it was what was the block editor before it was something that was available in WordPress by default. So it was for a long time the only option. And I would say that it has a little bit more maturity in terms of they've been around longer, and so they maybe do some things that the block editor is still kind of in the process of kind of getting there. So it's definitely an editor that's growing and improving every year. But we don't have a preference here. And if you create a site on WordPress.com and you upgrade to the business plan, you can add the Elementor plugin to your site and use that editor. You don't have to use our editor. That's totally fine.
I heard a really good analogy actually from one of my teammates last week. That something to think about when it comes to plugins in particular is think of it like a car and aftermarket add-ons. So if you buy a Honda and you drive away and then you install an Alpine stereo, you wouldn't go back to the Honda dealership to troubleshoot your Alpine stereo that you added aftermarket. Okay. So websites are the same situation. You have a WordPress.com website. It comes with all of these features. You upgrade to the business plan and you install some third-party plugins. Those are like aftermarket add-ons. So WordPress.com isn't necessarily going to be able to entirely guide you or fix problems with that third-party add-on. You would go to the source of where you got that aftermarket add-on to get it fixed or to get help with it and stuff like that. So keep that in mind.
Thank you. Cool. I want to be super conscious of your time. You've been so kind to answer all of our questions. I want to highlight one that CZMT very kindly reminded me about, and sorry we took so long to get there, which is this one I found really interesting. If I make a site for a friend or a client, is it possible to create it on my own WordPress account, but then transfer ownership to the other person's WordPress account?
Absolutely. And depending on what plan you're on, so there's a couple steps. So if you actually search our knowledge base for transfer, you can see that there's domain transfer instructions. There's also transfer a site to another WordPress.com account. So that's transferring the site to your friend's account. You can transfer domains into WordPress.com to another account, between sites. You can also transfer plans between. So short answer is yes, all the transferring can happen. You might need a little bit of help on which one to pick and how to do it. For if you're not, I always mumble up this wording. If you have a plugin enabled website, so you're on the business plan and you've installed plugins, you will need to come through our support channels and we can do that for you because it's on our business servers, so that it's a little more technical. So we need to do it for you. It's no problem and it's quite quick. It doesn't take that long. But if you don't have any plugins installed, it's actually really simple to do it yourself. I can even show you, that's a business site. If we go into this one here, actually, you can just go into manage blogs and you'll have transfer blog options here. Well, I have a lot of test sites. Yeah, you just click on transfer and then go through that process. And our documentation explains for sites without plugins, keep this in mind. There's the same place, transfer blog.
Wow, that's really complete. That's super cool.
Okay.
I'll add on to it if I can, just to say that it's one of the great strengths of the WordPress platform is that you can transfer a site on WordPress.com to another WordPress.com user if you want, but you also have the ability to transfer off of WordPress.com and use WordPress with another provider, or vice versa. If you have WordPress with another provider and you would like to move to our system, which has a little bit more management built in and built-in support, for example. So there's always a helpline you can contact. That's also easy to do. WordPress is an open source platform that is completely portable. So we make it easy to export. We make it easy to import.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Really cool.
And you own all your content. So somewhere in those, the links, I had shared an article. Where are my links? Hang on a second. I want to reshare this one. There's a lot of misconception that, if you're with a managed host like WordPress.com, you don't own your content. That is not true. You absolutely own your content. That's like saying I rented an apartment and so I no longer own my furniture. Of course, you still own your furniture. Okay. So I've just put in that article link again. That's a very detailed article on the difference between self-hosted and WordPress.com. Also, on my screen right now, you can see that we offer a lot of information on how to import your content from other systems as well. And this includes from other platforms and also just importing from another WordPress site in. So there's lots and lots of information around how to do that if you want to get into WordPress.com.
Fabulous. Thank you. Want to be super conscious of your time. So I will go through a couple more of these questions again with their answers. Matthew asked, does the aspect ratio change the image size? And let's see, aspect ratio being the sort of like how the image is cropped and what dimensions does it have. Jerry here says correct. It affects the cropping, if you will. So it says the image should be a square instead of a narrow rectangle. There are separate controls for the size of the image. So that's super cool. One request from Ahmed was, please give us the link to the site you just made. So that we can, play around with it or have a look at it. So got a question from me. Can I save without publishing? And we touched a little bit on this when you were going through that publishing route. So just to double check, where did it go? Here, Jerry said, unlike a published document, nothing is set in stone on the website. You can iterate and change your site anytime you feel like it. And as Tanya said very correctly, a website is, it evolves over time. It doesn't, how did you put it again? You can launch before you're ready. No, you put it so well. Was that it?
Probably. Yeah. I say launch early. Get it launched as fast as you can. Make it the first thing you do. Just launch it.
Love it.
You can absolutely change as you go. Nothing. It's digital. That typo is not going to be in print forever. So
true.
Just launch it and then go back and change it. You can save individual pages and posts as drafts. So we've got a page here that just saved as a draft. That was that test one I was working on. So you can absolutely start on things and save it as a draft and just kind of sit there. Nobody but you can see it. So that's no problem. And you can do that with posts as well. You can also schedule out. I've never used scheduling for pages, but for posts, I certainly have. So I'll pre-write content that I want to publish a new post every Monday, and I want to be consistent with that. So I'll pre-write posts and schedule them for 10 o'clock every Monday for a few weeks in advance so that I don't have to worry about it if I have a week when I don't want to write a post.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think the last question would be from Tanya, who asked, heard there are often problems with WordPress plugins interfering, not working with each other, but you need them for payment modules. Could you report on this, please?
Yeah, so absolutely. They're not wrong. There's a lot of third-party plugins that do end up conflicting because when you think about it, it's all different add-ons and extensions that are being created by all sorts of random people that might not work together with your unique recipe of, you could have that perfect storm where you just break it. So there's a few different things with that. You can, if you hit the critical error, then contact us and we can deactivate a plugin for you. But you can reach out to plugin developers and say, hey, this is the setup I have. Your plugin isn't playing nicely. Can you fix it? And some of them absolutely will. They want their plugins to play nicely with a lot of different setups. Other times you might just need to look for a different plugin that will have, a similar feature functionality to it as something else. There's often dozens of plugins that will do similar things. So it's worth researching and trying out different ones. When it comes to payment modules, there's a few different things with that. So WordPress.com has various payment features built right in. So you can do a payment block, which will allow you to sell products or accept donations or do subscriptions or any of that sort of stuff that's built right in. And that one connects with a Stripe account. So long as you're in a country that works with Stripe, that's a thing. Of course, not everybody has access to Stripe around the whole world, right?
And sorry, Stripe is like a payment processing service?
PayPal or similar, yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Exactly. So, you would just you would then go from there. If you don't have access to, the accounts that we provide as the default, then you're looking at working with something like WooCommerce. Now, WooCommerce is a full e-commerce store setup that will connect with countless payment gateways and payment processors and modules and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's just a case of testing out. Honestly, I would say that where the biggest problem comes in, and I am guilty of this, so this is not a judgment piece at all, is that we often look for free solutions. We don't want to pay for that extra plugin. We don't want to put out the money to get the better quality thing. We're just going to look for the free things. And like I said, I'm 100% guilty of that. And sometimes it's not the right answer. Sometimes the free plugins will have more problems than if you pay for a professional one, where it's been built a little bit better and you have the support behind it. So you're able to reach out easier to the plugin developers and get them to take care of things for you, and fix things. So keep that in mind. And like I said, totally not a judgment thing. I am all for free. But there comes a point in time, and especially when you're dealing with payment type things, you kind of got to ask that question of, is it worth cutting this corner?
And I use the analogy of smartphones for this as well. So we probably all have the experience of there's 100 free apps that'll do one thing, but it's sometimes worth paying that little extra couple bucks to get that one that, just runs reliably and doesn't have ads in it and just has all the features, nothing's locked. Plugins are very much like that too. And similar to how if you take two people and you ask them to take their phones out of their pocket and show you what apps they have installed, you'll never have the same apps between two devices. That's the challenge for plugin developers as well. So when someone is out there in the wild creating their plugin for WordPress, they don't know what 10 or 20 other plugins you might have on your site, and how those might interact. So it's just a thing that happens. And it's not even a thing that just happens with WordPress. Like if you use extensions in your browser, like I have tons of extensions in Chrome, sometimes those extensions will conflict and you have to disable one or maybe find an alternative for one because it's causing problems. So it doesn't inherently speak to how unstable the platform is or anything like that, but really speaks more to how flexible it is, how much you can do with it, and how many different components you can add to get what you need. And that means that occasionally, from time to time, there's going to be something you uncover on your site that's unique to your combination and a developer might not be aware of. So that's when you go to the plugin developer, like Tanya said, and be like, hey, I'm having problems with this site, and here's what it is, and can you help me?
Excellent. Great. I think I have kept you too long enough. I've kept you wonderful viewers long enough. I'm just going to say, thank you all so much for joining today. Just a quick final thing. If you want to go and try out WordPress.com, go to WordPress.com. Small bit of homework. Again, optional homework. Tomorrow at this same time, we'll be coming on live and making a website with WordPress.com. Won't be half as good as the one that Tanya made today, but hopefully not too terrible.
Use the pattern assembler. It'll be beautiful. You don't. It does all the work for you.
Fantastic. So I can just make poor choices in terms of content.
We can't help you there. No.
No, I think I'm gonna be left on my own there. But here's the thing, folks. If you make a website or if you've made a website with WordPress, please share it. If it's something that we can share on screen that doesn't have anything inappropriate or that breaks the code of conduct, we'd love to show it off as well. So please bring your links and go on and play around with WordPress.com. And Tanya, Jerry, did I miss anything else we might want to share?
We go? Actually, well, you didn't, but I did. We have a discount coupon for you all.
How kind. I love it. Thank you.
For anyone, and I guess I'll just put it there. So that's the
cool
code. So this coupon, we have limitations on how long coupons can be available for, but this one will be good through until April 15th. And it'll give you a 20% discount on any of our annual, biannual, or triannual plans. So if you decide to choose personal or premium or business, whatever plan, any of those plans, you'll get a 20% discount.
Until April
15th.
15th on annual,
biannual, and triannual.
Yep, 1, 2, or 3.
We have 1, 2, and 3 year plans.
Oh,
we have monthly as well, but I don't have access to do discount coupons on monthly plans.
So here it comes, folks, into the chat. I'll put it into the YouTube description as well. I hope I spelled triannual. It doesn't feel right that it has two N's.
I know, but it is.
Yeah, it's one that I spell check every single time, I have to admit. Yeah.
No,
So there you go, folks.
20%, not 25.
What did I say?
And worth mentioning
20,
on
20, my bad.
WordPress.com, our free sites have advertising on them. It's kind of how we help cover our operating costs. So one reason that folks will upgrade to a plan, say like even our personal plan, which is our most affordable one, is to turn off the ads. So they want to see those. It doesn't have a very professional appearance, and we certainly understand that. Also gives you the option to have a custom domain. So your address doesn't have to have WordPress.com in it. It can be your address.
Folks, I'm so sorry I got it wrong. It was 20%, not 25. I think it was the 15th that added the 5 in my head.
It's okay. It's all good.
But yeah, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you once again. Folks, if you want to join in tomorrow, where we'll be doing labs and doing some bad websites live, here is the link to the schedule, which again, thank you for correcting my mistake, should now be fixed. And I think that's it. I've taken so much of your time, but I'm so thankful.
Oh, no worries. I'm thrilled that you reached out to us and invited us. It was a pleasure to do this.
We literally do this all day long, just the two of us on Slack private messages. So yeah, we could talk forever.
We really could. We really could. And I'm always like, what part do I show and what do I leave out? But I just want to do it all. But we'd be here all day.
Very kind. Thank you. I'm going to say...
do encourage you, sorry, one more link. I do encourage you to check out wordpress.com/learn. This specific link is actually for a course. So let me just put that.
Oh, sorry.
You can share my screen. That's fine. But yeah, wordpress.com/learn will take you into the main website where it shows you what webinars and courses and so on and so forth that we have available. So you can... it's just another area for you to learn more as well.
Basically all of our learning resources in one place, separate from the support, the documentation. This is more about teaching you how to do the stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm really excited because we have a new design coming soon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, folks. I will say thank you so much for joining, folks. I'll catch you again tomorrow. And Tanya, Jerry, everybody, have a great rest of your day. Go rest, take it easy, and see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
So much. Bye, everyone.